And I'm Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on the 16th of November. It's Sunday, Yom Rishon, first day of the week, and it's what is it, 8:45 or something like that? Yeah, 8:44. Something just popped up in the news. Somebody sent me just before I got on the air, and it was rather distressing. So I'm going to go through that. Basically, the UN General Assembly turned against Israel in a pretty big way. We'll get into that. Trump's turning against Israel in a pretty decent way, also. We'll get into that. And Netanyahu and his problems and what's going on in Israel, and we'll get into that. And, Russia and Ukraine are still knocking each other's lights out. Everybody's screaming, Russian warship off the coast of Hawaii. Yeah, but it's an intelligence gathering ship, not an attack ship. But they want to scare people into buying survival food and all that. Who am I to stop them, right? Just kidding. I try to stop it. All right. Let me go into the live stream with the lousy format, which is horrible. And what's wrong now? Let's get rid of this and get in there and see what's going on. Make sure we got a live stream. Looks good. A little bit on the cold side. Put a post up in the chat very quickly. Just a few seconds. Not going to take any time at all. If you're using a small keyboard on the phone, this is a piece of cake. So I have very big hands and fingers, and the phones are very challenging because the keyboard is so small. Oh, I hate what YouTube did to us. Is terrible. Okay. Let me pin this up. Okay. Now we have people coming in. Okay. Being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise, Old and New Testament, and then we'll get going. Okay, there is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 So let me get out of this stupid thing. I can't. This what you did. This new format is just sad. I think they do all this on purpose just to make people frustrated. It's glitching a bit. I don't know. I could check my bandwidth. Let's take a look. I don't know what's going on, but we can find out real quick with the bandwidth easily. got people on the hub here. Believe all the fiber optic companies are the same what they're doing here. They're overselling the system. It's not so bad, really. It's not so good, but not that bad. So I'm coming in at about 264 upload, and looks like about 80, 90 on the upload. Let's see what it finalizes at. And 82 on the upload. That should be more than enough. Okay, let's get into it. So this is an extremely weird thing the UN General Assembly did. It's a nasty, ugly thing to Israel. And I'll give it to you right now. I just gotta get there. Okay. The Economic and Financial Committee of the United Nations General Assembly. Now, vote on stuff, and it's not enforceable. It has to go to Security Council, okay? They adopted a resolution emphasizing the permanent sovereignty of the Palestinian people over their natural resources in the occupied territories. Now, we're occupying our own land. Okay. The West Bank, which is Samaria and Judea. The resolution calls on the Zionist regime, that would be us, to end the exploitation and plundering of these resources. The resolution was proposed by the group of 77 plus China, who was adopted with an overwhelming majority. They adopted it with an overwhelming majority of 152 votes in favor, including positive votes from all European Union member states and Canada. Now, remember, that doesn't mean everybody in Canada dislikes the Jews. Norway is very anti-Israel, and I know there's a lot of people in Norway that don't dislike the Jews, and there's that really like Israel. And the same for Canada, and the same for the United Kingdom and France. You know, it's just the satanic governments. In contrast, only 8 countries, and I'll name them: the United States, Nauru, Micronesia, Papua New Guinea, Palau, Paraguay, Argentina, and Israel voted against it, while 12 other countries abstained. So we got to watch if this goes anywhere. Israel will likely ignore it because it has no enforcement capability. And I don't know what the heck they're talking about anyway. What are we doing there with the natural resources? I don't know. What we olives? I don't know. You know, there's nobody pumping oil or liquid natural gas over there. I don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so this could go bad. It could go to UN Security Council, which is 12. The United States has a permanent seat, and they can veto anytime they want. So if they veto, well, that's the end of it. It's dead. And so I'm not very concerned with enforcement of it. Okay, let's cover some more crazy things. Border Patrol operations start in Charlotte, as officials urge calm. Well, that means we might have protesters um, going against them, and we'll cover some of these protesters um, in other parts of the country in America, what's going on. So it's become a fear thing. People are worried about it. You know, it's funny what they do, the Muslim inspired God's chosen people and the people that support them. Instead of saying, oh, God is behind Israel because of how well we do in the wars and stuff, no, they try to make believe that we never really won the war, do everything they can to make it that we get nothing out of the war, including Trump doing genocide. You see, oh, they didn't win the war, they're genocide. I had a wise guy I had to take care of with some spiritual work. Okay. Um, Now, this is pretty weird. On Friday, November 14th, today, Sunday the 16th, 21 protesters were arrested outside the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE, detention facility. That's their jail. It's a nice way of saying it's a jail. Talking Chicago here, um, being the demonstration, 4 officers were reportedly injured while trying to redirect the protesters away from a roadway. Okay. The protests involved blocking roadway access and clashing with law enforcement over immigration enforcement that was taking place in Chicago. So there you go. There's other places this is going on too. And that's what they're afraid of in Charlotte. They don't want to see this go on, but Trump wants to continue efforts to do deportation. On the stipend check or whatever you want to call it that Trump is talking about, at least $2,000 a person coming from the billions of dollars in tariffs. Okay, what's going to happen is probably nothing. Um, Something Trump may ramrod this as an executive order, and the House and the Senate may leave it alone because they want it. I don't know, but so far nothing. Nothing's been proposed to Congress. No bill. Maybe Trump's not going to go to Congress. So maybe it'll go through. I give it a maybe. Look, Biden got it to go with the COVID, so Trump likely can. Again, they would like to see the people Thanksgiving, but I'm not so sure they're going to make that. Okay. Um, Thanksgiving is about 8 days. What is it? Yeah, something like 8 days away. Or I don't know. I don't think they're going to make it. Let's see what I'm looking at the calendar just to make sure I know what I'm talking about here. December, I want November. I want October. I want November. So I come in with Thanksgiving on the 27th, right? Okay, so there's a little bit of time, but I don't think he'll make it. The 27th, unless I'm wrong. Let's see. Then it could be the 20th, but it might be the 20th. Let me get the actual date because I don't know which Thursday it's going to be, but we'll fix that. Yeah, I had it. He's still got a little bit of a chance of getting it out if he goes by executive order. I remember back like around 1980, the turkeys were running, a good turkey was $12, $13. A really big one was 22. I mean, a massive one. They're probably about 40, 50, $60 now, depending what part of the country you're in, and things of that nature, right? It depends. The New York Post, that's the newspaper in New York that my mother always got when I was a kid growing up. I always wanted her to get the Herald Tribune or the New York Times, but she got the Post. They had the New York Times, which was supposed to be the intellectual paper. The Herald Tribune, which was, I liked it better. It was a kind of an intellectual copy. That's not fair. It was another intellectual paper like the Times, but I thought it was better, more intuitive, and yeah, I liked it. And then you had the Daily News, which was gruesome pictures of crimes and accidents mostly. That was for lowbrow. And then you had the New York Post, which was certainly not. So what was it? I don't know. She used to get that. It was very, very weak on international news or international news. It was mostly local. And I grew up with that. Then when I got older and I used to commute, I went to commuted from the Bronx, and I used to buy the paper. I'd read it on the way down, and I would save it and read it on the way back. Sometimes if I wasn't finished with it, and I would read um, sometimes the Wall Street Journal, not too often, and the Times and the Herald Tribune were really what I would go after. There was also something called Investors Daily. I don't think in those days I was reading that. Mostly the Times. Okay, so I didn't know at the time that you were just getting brainwashed by them. I wasn't aware of that. So uh, Shamir Schmier and Wesson. It's Schmier is it's Jewish slang. How did it? Give me a bagel with a schmear. It means schmear bagel, bagel and lox schmear sometimes, or just a bagel with a schmear. Uh, They had names that were funny. I think it originated a year to my years. They had another word called shtick. Uh, Shtick meant nothing. It was a thing. It meant a thing. It had no definitive anything about it. And a shtick lock was a little thing. So if you wanted to, somebody was cutting corned beef or an apple or anything, you'd say, they'd say, "Do you want some?" You'd say, "Give me a shtick lock," which would mean a small piece. Give me a shtick would be a little bit of a bigger piece. That's weird, but okay. We called, me and a roommate had a dog for a while. It was a really nice dog. We couldn't keep the poor guy. We got him out of the shelter. It's just it. But nothing ever really bad happened to him. We had to return him to the shelter. He was really a good guy and really liked being with us. But yeah, it's what happened. But he was a Dalmatian. He was a good guy, and we called him Shtick. He didn't care. Okay. Uh, it reminds me of Beulah. He was a lot like Beulah. Okay. So, and Wesson is a parody against Smith and Wesson, which is the gun maker. They make the best revolvers, by the way, but they make pretty crappy semi-automatic pistols. Their revolvers are pretty darn good. Okay, Smith and Wesson, uh, an idiomatic homage to Smith and Wesson, the firearms manufacturer. New York Jews are rushing to arm themselves after Mandani's victory election. The newspaper reports an increase in the number of Jews who have purchased firearms since Mandani's election as mayor of New York. Now, what's wrong with this story? They're lying. First of all, I can't imagine the NYPD statistics on people coming down and applying guns and categorizing them by skin color or religious belief or race. So where did these statistics come from? Out of thin air. Okay. Are there a lot of Jews probably going down and getting guns? Yes. But let me explain to you the gun purchase process in New York City. Nobody ran out since he got elected a few days ago and got a gun. Okay. The least amount of time it's ever going to take you to get a gun in New York City is 4 months, but that'd be exceptionally unusual, especially now since a lot of people are applying. You're going to have a higher, probably at least would be 6 to 8 months. Now, they have a thing in New York called a premises permit. I will explain. A lot of store owners in New York get a gun permit, like let's say you own a liquor store or I don't know, medical marijuana if they have it in New York, or something where you're getting robbed and you think you can pull this off. What they do is they apply for the permit, which takes months. And this might have changed. I think it did change, but it used to be that police would deny it. Then you would hire a lawyer. It didn't cost that much because the lawyer knew exactly what to file. That's what I was doing every week. He'd file 2 or 3, he'd file these motions in the court, and it would take less than a year to a year, I think, and you would win if, but you didn't anyway. So what you would wind up with is a permit for premises permit, what does that do for you? Well, you can carry the gun inside the store. I believe you could do it openly or concealed. I don't think they care. Just stay inside the store. So if you um, walked outside, let's say it was snowing and you had to shovel the sidewalk, and you went outside the store with the gun and shoveling the sidewalk, and the cops saw you with the gun, it's the same as if you didn't have a permit. Off to jail you go. Okay. So you can get a gun for your premises in your home, but you can't take it out of your home. Now, I don't know what the latest is. There's provisions if you want to take it to the range. It probably is. You've got to lock it in one container and the ammo in another container locked up. I don't know what they tell. I mean, they must have a provision. Or if you got to take it to repairs, or you're taking it to sell it or transfer it or something. Yeah. But anyway, so you could get a shotgun or a rifle for your house with not a lot of trouble. Time you got to get fingerprinted. You got to have an interview, I believe, with the police. They run a criminal records check. They ask you why you want it. You can't have a felony conviction. You can't have a conviction for domestic violence. You can't be have a history of psychiatric or a drug test, but I imagine if you're an alcoholic, that's okay. But if you're addicted to drug, they may not like it. And you apply, and the applications are hundreds of dollars. And you get, unless you have to go back and get a lawyer and take it to the New York State Supreme Court like it used to be, you get a permission to carry, not to carry, to keep the gun at home. Getting a permit in New York City to carry the gun on your person is extremely difficult to do. In most of the United States, it's a joke. It's easy as pie. You go into the store and you fill out the yellow sheet. No, 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 no. Boom, sign, right? And you get your gun. Now, you might have a waiting period. You might not. I don't know. Okay. So, you're not going and taking blood work and, going and getting fingers and all this sick stuff. All right. So they, you get a shotgun or a rifle, and it has to have a magazine capacity of up to 10. So you could have 10 in the clip and 1 in the chamber. Shotguns, which is an ideal weapon to keep in your house, much better than a rifle. It doesn't pierce walls and kill your neighbors, and it's you don't have to be that accurate with it. It's rather potent, quite potent. And you can get a really good Benelli with it's usually 8 rounds instead of 1 on 2 3/4 shells. So a 12 gauge at 2 3/4 shells is 9 pellets. Each pellet's the size of a 32 caliber pistol bullet, which cops used to use back around 1920, 30 in Europe mostly. Some in America had it back then. It kills somebody with accuracy. But when you're shooting a shotgun and you hit the person with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever pellets, these it usually will drop them like lightning. They'll just go right down and probably die. That's there, or the head, probably done. Okay, so you got your 8 shots, and you can get those off in a few seconds. Boom, 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 about 3 seconds probably, maybe a little less if you know what you're doing, and then you're dry. So what you could do is have a second shotgun. You have to go through the whole process again and get a second one, and then grab a second one. But 8 shots in an apartment is a lot of rounds. Okay, your apartment's gonna look like crap after that. Now you could get the 3-inch shells, which will go in the gun, and you probably don't get 7+1. You probably get 6+1. Or maybe you get 7+1. I don't know. And they got 12 pellets. You could get a 10 gauge shotgun with a 3.5-inch round, and I think that's 18 double-aught buck, which is twice what the 2 3/4-inch has. But it's generally a rather large gun with a large barrel. It's meant to shoot birds at distance or game at distance. So you're going to have, like 24, 26-inch, 30-inch barrel or something like that. But I think some people make them with a they don't hold that many shots. But if you get somebody with 18 rounds of 18 pellets of double-aught buck, it's going to be rather painful. They're going to go down. Lightning hit them. Anyway, it doesn't do you good in the street. It's just going to do you It's just going to do you good in your house. Getting a permit they give them to people that have businesses that handle a lot of money, but they're very nasty in New York, and they normally will tell the person that he can use the permit going to his business, and coming home from his business and at his business. But they don't want, like, if he closes his shop, let's say he sells jewelry, he closes his store, and he goes to the movies and goes out to eat, they really don't want him doing that. But they might let it slide. The cop may or may not nail him, because they stop him and they say, well, what's on? You got a permit? What are you doing? Well, I'm on my way home. Well, why are you out of the car walking over here? Well, I had to stop. They usually let it go. But they might not. It depends who stops you, If you get somebody that has a sexual preference or a religious preference or a racial preference, and you're on the wrong side of what they want to believe, and they don't like it, then they could run you up, and you're not going to go to jail. They might put you on probation with your permit, like do it again and you lose it. They might take the permit away from you for a period of time, but they probably will revoke it. Can you get a court order? Go to a judge and sue them, and you should get it back. It's not fair. I was taking the money and I had to put it in the bank, or I felt ill and I stopped and I was looking for small or drink water. You might get it back. If they catch you in a bar, with the gun, that they won't like. Would prefer you would take the gun, put it in the trunk of your car, lock it up, and then they're not going to bother you. If they stop you, well, if you're driving and you got the gun in your holster in the car, you just say, I'm going home from my this. Okay. They're not going to say anything. It's if they catch you walking around. So I know a story. A guy went to movies on the way home. And they didn't do much about it. They just yelled at him when he told them off. It's like, hey, But okay, so they're really nasty. So what's going to happen with all these Jews? Did they just go out and get guns? No, they didn't. You can't possibly get the gun until maybe Easter time. Okay, April. And this jerk mayor is going to get in there, and he's immediately going to have down the processing time to get these guns by months. So what took 4 to 8 months will take 8 to 20 months. Okay, and in the meantime, getting a carry permit is about a year there. In the meantime, he'll change the policies or change the law and stop people from getting guns. A pig like this is going to take guns away from people because he's worried about himself. So whatever the gun laws are in New York now, they're about to get a lot worse. And I don't know how bad worse is. I was no longer living in San Francisco when they tried this. I think it was one of the mayors or something, it's quite a number of years ago, tried to get a law that you could not have any guns at all in San Francisco. So, if you were military, if you were working as a guard and had some sort of license or law enforcement, you could have a gun. Only everybody else would have to remove their guns from outside of San Francisco. Okay. That's it. It failed. They couldn't. They passed it, but it got appealed and got struck down. They couldn't do that. They were violating Second Amendment in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Um, so the mayor of New York used to stop with the guns. So the Jews in New York City are getting upset. They should, look, as long as you got the curse of Israel as the prime minister here, they're not going to move here because he's keeping life perpetually awful living here. He's the lowest piece of scum you could imagine. And people keep voting him because they got protexia. Oh, we're supporters, of the Likud party, and we got protexia, and they put up with this derelict. Because they want to take advantage of the fellow Israeli. So sad. Okay. In Gaza, the tents that entered are being sold at exorbitant prices instead of being distributed. That's Hamas. Amid winter weather, well, the last 2 days we had rain and bitter cold. I was using the heater yesterday. The house started cooling off. I was sleeping with the heater on. And it was rough in Gaza. They were getting leaks and stuff like that. As I understand it with tents, if you want to have a tent that's going to hold up in the canvas tent, that's going to hold up in the rain, you have to have a fly over the tent. So a fly is another piece of fabric that goes perhaps a few inches over the tent and comes down on the sides a little bit. And the rain will hit that predominantly. If it drops down, 18, 24 inches on the side, it takes the bulk of the rain from going on the sides of the tent. If the rain's coming like this, it won't hit the side. If it comes down like that, if the rain was coming down like this, it would hit the sides. So it really won't get on the sides. So I don't think they were having flies over their tent. So they were getting water in the tent, apparently. Huge quantities of tents are being stored in houses of international organizations, and tents are not being distributed to residents seeking shelter in worn out tents because they'll blame it on Israel. But we're not doing that, but they'll blame us. As a reminder, Mahmoud, Mahmoud Basal, spokesperson for Hamas Civil Defense, yesterday that the residents of the Strip need another 450,000 tents. Well, yeah, I don't think anybody's going to come up with anything like that. Hamas steals the stuff and sells it. That's what happens. And, that's why Trump doesn't want to do any rebuilding when Hamas is not disarmed, because they will shake down all the contractors. Hey, you're doing the painting in this building, I want 25%. You're doing the flooring, I want 25%. I want 25%. That's what's going to happen. This guy, Nabi Berri, Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament and Chairman of now the Hezbollah are Shiites. He says Hezbollah has the right to rebuild itself. Yeah. So that's a general affair. I mean, the government of Lebanon is going to do nothing to take on Hezbollah and demilitarize. Israel has to do it. The UN came up with some balking about a wall. Israel built a wall in southern Lebanon protecting Israel. Why? Well, it was a hard wall, like concrete brick wall, and it would stop, SUVs, trucks, cars, motorcycles, because they got to get over the wall, and they're not going to do that. We got threats from them, motorcycles into Israel, stuff like that. So they're saying it's illegal, it interferes with the Lebanese people movement down there in the south there. Now let's switch to Mexico. I hope you're getting the idea that this is, in Mark 13, one of the signs, like earthquakes in diverse places on it, is disturbance, which is protests. Okay. Large riots at a massive protest in Mexico City against the government following of Uruapan, that must be a city or a province or something there. Carlson, Monzo, and delegations of government corruption. Earlier, the break into the presidential palace, which they just recently erected metal walls to keep fences, really, to keep people out. Mexico people they don't benefit from the drug cartels. The president of Mexico is a Jewish woman, but she's still a cartel. But the cartels have had so much money the last, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. I would say they had so much money since the late 60s, so 60, 65 years. They came to the conclusion that what they got to do is use a lot of this money to support politicians that work for them. That's what Al. And that's the way it's. The drug cartels in Mexico and all by Antarctica are drug cartel run. They got the bright idea that if they control the government, which controls the military, which controls the police, they don't have to worry about getting those confiscated and going to jail. They also use the government and the military and the police or whatever to turn and go after those that are coming into the area and selling drugs. They try to get them arrested, which makes it look good because, hey, the police arrested them, And probably if they seize 300 kilos of heroin, they probably report 50 kilos and they give the 250 to their friends in the cartel. They're all these countries south of Texas are all corrupt and crooked and they're just intoxicated with the drugs. They were not selling drugs until you had the hippie revolution, and that started around 65. It really got going around 67, 66. And they started bringing marijuana into America. They had marijuana came from a lot of countries, but it all went through Mexico mostly. They had Panama Red from Panama. So yeah, Panama Canal people were selling a high grade. And I can't remember all the names. They had all different names. They had something called Thai sticks from Thailand. Gold. I don't know if it was Panama gold or something else. I don't know. A lot of it came through from Mexico. And, dealers were buying duffel bags full of the stuff. And they were breaking it down into 1 ounce bags. They were calling that a lid. And in the 60s, they were selling it for how much? I don't know, $8 to $12 for an ounce of the stuff. It had twigs in it and everything else, And people were smoking marijuana like crazy. Then it expanded. They start with marijuana and then they use hard drugs. But a lot of them don't like the hard drugs. They try it and they stop it and do it again. It varies. So they all to do is control the government, run people for office that work for them. In the Congress and in the government, a lot of judges are elected in different countries and run the judges, and that's it. They also would control the prison wardens, and they would control the generals in the military and the chiefs of police, and they had the thing knocked, and they still do to this day. And they do whatever they want with drugs. Now, they sell a lot of drugs in their own country, but they can't get the money they can from America and Europe. So they like to sell to America and Europe. And they don't want to get raided. They don't want to have the warehouses hit and they lose $192 million worth of product. They don't want any of that. They don't want to go to jail. They don't want to have to pay lawyers and pay judges off because they got arrested. No, they take care of it before it happens, and then they just sleep well. So along comes Trump, and everybody's going to move in and attack Venezuela. Well, I thought so, but why not yet? Surely he doesn't need the time to get ready anymore. I think he's afraid to do it. He's scared of everything. When you start a war, you don't know what's going to happen. So he might just do targeted aerial attacks from the air on cartel targets. That's probably all he'll ever do. I don't know. He might get more guns on him. So they're going after this woman in Mexico. And I think this smells like the CIA. I think CIA provocateurs are people are funding organizations that want to get rid of it, giving them money to have literature, to pass literature out, to go on news shows and stuff like that. And they're trying to take Mexico back from the cartels. Okay? Some 19-year-old punk in a cartel can go ahead and start with somebody's daughter, and the guy tells him to get lost, and the cartel guy just shoots him. Nothing's going to happen. Yeah. People want it to end. Are they going to ever get it to end? No. Why? They don't understand the leaders of the government and the leaders of the cartel are Satan bots. And these people fighting against them aren't Satan bots. If they were, they wouldn't fight against them. They think drug dealers are fun. They would try to get along with them and make money with them. So, no, they're not going to get anywhere with it. Trump's a Satan bot. Trump's not going to help them. Trump, you see, drugs come into America and a lot, they get sold, and billions and billions and billions of dollars leave the country. Trump doesn't like that. He's not making any money off these people. And people are coming along and doing business in America, making billions of dollars, and have to go down a lot of it to him. So he's going to block him. Could it be there is a card Trump is behind and supports, and they do this? I doubt it, but it could be. I don't think so. So that's the story there, and you'll have more riots. The CIA is pushing it. I don't think Trump has the guts to go and stop bombing Mexico, but he might get there. See, Trump doesn't have the guts to go boots on the ground and overthrow Venezuela, or I think he's scared. He's a baby. He's afraid of the shadow. He's been getting tossed, and he's freaked out. But he probably does have enough guts to send airplanes in to drop bombs and launch missiles. Because Venezuela can't do much of anything about that. Neither can Mexico. So he might do that in Mexico. That's it. You know, what we're talking about, what he's doing with Gaza, we'll get to that quickly. He's weak. You know, he's afraid. So the crowd actually did knock the wall down in Mexico that they put up. The woman's name, the president, is Claudia Scheinbaum. The demonstrators call themselves Gen Z. And then when they you can't just tell the cartels to go away. You know, they're not going to do it. Stop making $800 billion a year, guys, you know? Yeah, they'll stop. There's people running stories that the security forces and the military in Iran are defecting and going over to the side of we the people, so to speak. And I don't know how true it is. Some of them probably did defect, if you will, but we don't know how many. Somebody said 20,000. I don't see it. So they're burning images of Khomeini. That's uh, he doesn't stand for election. He's the supreme leader. That's his title, I believe. So he's the dictator. The elections are just, you know, a game place to make the people think there's something resembling a democracy. There isn't. Um, Many people defected, this and that, and most of this is coming out of social media, and you know, it's going on. You know, one source said 20,000 have defected, and you know, we really don't know. Could it be true? Absolutely, it could be true. The Iranian government ain't going to tell you, and we don't know if it's true or not true. But definitely something happens. Some of them are defecting, but we don't know. So keep an eye on that. Um, but it's very difficult to get any kind of numbers. Now, does the CIA have numbers? Maybe it'd be hard to imagine how they got them, but maybe. Um, we'll talk about Trump and Gaza now. Because of Trump mentioning Palestinian state, mentioning it, with this thing with Gaza, we'll work up to a Palestinian state. Okay, talking like that. Let me keep going. Ben Gavir, that's the right wing guy, member, is in charge of the security forces, police, and Shin Bet. Said he wants Netanyahu to basically state publicly that he will never support a Palestinian state. It's not going to happen. If Ben Gavir says if Netanyahu does this, supports the Palestinian state, basically, I think the meaning here is more like Ben Gavir saying if Netanyahu doesn't say again, come out and say, I'm never going to support a Palestinian state, Ben Gavir is going to leave the coalition. Smotrich, the other right wing guy, that let me read it. Basically, he's saying the same thing, and he's saying that talking about a Palestinian state is rewarding the Palestinians for terrorism. And it is. He's right. So he also wants some kind of statement coming out of Netanyahu that he's never supported it. Because Trump put this in the writing of that proposal to the UN that's going to be voted on Monday that ain't never going to pass. But they're getting nervous that this piece of crap Netanyahu is making a deal with Trump to sell out the people of Israel and put in a Palestinian state. He's no friend of the people of Israel. He's a Satan body. He doesn't like us. He's not for us. He's for himself and for the devil. That's my opinion. Saying he wants this, otherwise, I believe you're going to see Smotrich leave the coalition. They used to have about 15 votes. If Netanyahu starts supporting a Palestinian state, they'll probably have 25 votes. And there's going to be other political people that are going to want to leave the coalition too. So Netanyahu will never have the time to get anywhere with the Palestinian state. This UN thing's going to die. Russia and China are protesting it. Russia already submitted a it's their own plan, which does support a Palestinian state. So they're not going to vote for Trump's. China and Russia and the UK and Trump have permanent veto power, blah, blah, blah. And Russia and China are not going to support Trump. So why Trump even did it is delusional in my mind. And he's sitting there telling the people, in the UN, if it doesn't go through, we're going to have a lot of loss of life in Gaza. And what loss of life, Trump? Trump, you're a punk. You ain't going to do anything. You're a baby. You're afraid of your own shadow, you jackass. Throw the demons out of you. You're scared of everything. So his wording was identical to the 2020 deal of the century that the jerk had. With one major condition: the Palestinian Authority, that's Mahmoud Abbas, who for years has been doing the slave for pay program and never has stopped, and they keep supporting this bum. Must first undergo sweeping reforms like changing the education in the areas under his jurisdiction, the textbooks, stopping the pay for slave payments, and he's never going to stop any of this. It's never going to happen. So did Trump pass and never intends to do it? Well, it's a high probability, yes. But the problem is, do we trust it? No. No, we don't want to see it get started because they'll turn against us. He's trying to do this to make the Saudis go in the board, and stuff like this. I could care less if the Abrahamic Accord exists or doesn't exist. It doesn't do us a bit of good. It doesn't mean anything for us. It's a waste of time. Now, this is where Trump stands. The United States said it's considering foregoing Hamas disarmament to begin reconstruction as talks stall. Israel TV says Trump team pushing interim solution unacceptable to Israel ahead of imminent UN vote. Israel said foreign countries to send troops in here, but and Israel has just spoken to Putin. So Putin might be interested in sending troops here to enforce the ceasefire. He'll probably do it. Honestly, one thing about Putin, see, the United States will promise people anything and then do what they want. Putin is not that way. If he promises to do something, he generally does it. And so he's reliable, but I don't think anything's going to go anywhere with Putin, and I don't think that it's going to work out, and Netanyahu said that Putin called him. So I don't know where to go with that, I don't know what's going on, but Trump is likely staring us in the back. This is what he's also talking about. There's a yellow line. That's where we have our troops. On the yellow line towards Israel, that's like where we're in control. Our military controls the area. Hamas characters don't want to be there. Because if they walk around the street with an AK-47, boom, So they're on the other side of the yellow line. So another thing we heard come out of Trump is to leave Hamas armed on the other side of the yellow line and not rebuild it. The side on the Israel side of the yellow line do the rebuilding there. So in other words, baby Trump, is afraid to disarm Gaza, and he doesn't want to tell Israel to go, hey, you go disarm Gaza. Who the charge, and since when is he the prime minister of Israel? You see what I'm saying? This is the nation using us. The yoke. He's putting the yoke around us, so he's going to go. We know that. But let's see if we can give him a dose of spiritual warfare, and his enemies will get rid of him. They'll throw him out of office, impeach him or something. So, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua, Satan and every unclean spirit from being inside Donald Trump, his cabinet, his advisors, the people that give him a lot of money, and the people that help him and his lawyers. I bind all you unclean spirits from being in any of these people and any of the people that live in the same house as them. For a period of 1 year continuously, beginning now, you may not be in any of these people, nor shall you appear to these people, guide them, lead them, direct them, help them, assist them, give them advice, using any means that you possibly can. People, internet, machines, yourselves, whatever. You can't do it. And this is beginning now, and shall be in effect 1 year continuously from now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with me. Okay, additionally, I bind you unclean spirits from remaining inside any person that was in the White House in the last 30 days. You're bound from remaining in these people. You must depart from them now and never go back into them again. Hashem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with me there if you're a believer. See, what will happen is his competitors, his enemies, will feed off him. We just keep tossing them endlessly, and they'll get rid of him. Are they likely to get the next one worse than him? I don't know. It would be a statement. I don't know. But he's just too annoying, He's delusional. It really is. I'm not just making this up. He's delusional with peace plans, and I'm the president of peace, and look what he's doing in Russia, flying B-52s near the Russian border. I mean, come on, what? Talking about giving Zelensky Tomahawk missiles, and president of peace. Yeah. He tells he officially makes a big on White House stationery in the folder a request or a letter to Herzog, the president, to pardon Netanyahu. The schmuck didn't realize that you can't pardon him without a admission of guilt or conviction. Netanyahu's not going to admit to it, because what happens if Herzog doesn't pardon him? He goes to jail. And then they're going to do an investigation on October 7th, and he'll never get out of jail. That's a piece of garbage, But the next one is very likely going to be another piece of garbage. But the difference would likely be the other one wouldn't have 3 criminal cases hanging over his head. He'd work a little bit better than Netanyahu. All I know is it's sickening here. So does this mean we're getting pushed closer to redemption? Yeah. The more the UN turns on us, the more the nations turn on us and so forth. Well, Trump is not a lover, but it looks like he is, but he's not. He's a user to take advantage of. He's not a lover of Israel. He's terrible to us. And he's likely going to keep getting worse. Let me see if there's anything I need to do here in the chat. If there's something wrong with the sound, guys, I don't know what I can do about it. We got enough bandwidth. It could be YouTube. It could be your own connection. It's really hard to try to figure it out. Think twice. I need help. I got plenty of help. People agree with me on this tossing of the demons. I don't need help. I got a lot of help. 2 or more. That's all I need. Solar flare. I've watched those solar flares, and they put warnings and alerts and say the big solar flare. Never once have I seen any damage from that, other than there was some electrical minor difficulties one time. It's bogus. It's the survival people that sell you the survival products to scare you. It's a joke. So, see, I'm listening to it. It's coming out good. So I don't know. I'm not hearing it doing what you say it's doing. So, let's see what else we got. I think that's about it. Let me check. No, we had a bad incident. Well, no, a big. Member of the Knesset lawyer that was going to some what they call Torah class. They call things Torah like the Kabbalah and the Talmud, which are not the Torah. They deceive the people. All right. So he was going to some Torah class, and there was a demonstration outside his home, and there was another one from the Shas party, the other ultra-Orthodox party. They broke his windows in his car, and they were throwing garbage. And these were the ultra-Orthodox protesting these guys, and the police were there and arrested. I believe they got arrested. It was maybe not. Let me see. It was a real mess. The police had to escort this party out of that place where they were doing the Torah. So he didn't get hurt. And it's about the draft going into the military. And it looks like Netanyahu can't help them not go into the military, so that's why the Haredim were protesting in there. They want them to bear down harder. Now, these Haredi guys will lie and bluff, but in reality, they got the corruption and they're making a lot of money, and they're not going to do anything about it. They'll just let the young ones go in the army because they don't care. They'll still be making a lot of money. Hello? Oh, it's you, Mommy. There was a mass shooting in South Carolina, I guess last night or yesterday. A suspect was arrested, 20 people were shot. I don't have the count as to how serious they are, how many died, but bad shooting, mass shooting. The water crisis in Iran. Iranian media reports restrictions imposed on the purchase of drinking water in Tehran, the capital. A limit of 6 bottles per person has been imposed. The shortage of drinking water has created high demand for bottled water, and they have run out of supplies in stores. In addition, the price of water in Tehran has soared by about 100%, so it doubled. Wow. Trump, in an interview with the British media, you have areas in London, Paris, that even the police do not dare to enter. You have Sharia laws. Yeah, those are Satan's chosen people. So the rotten satanic leaders of these countries were letting them in as asylum seekers and all the stuff the devil wanted them to do. And now they're overthrowing the countries. And that's what the plan was all along. When you have satanic world leaders of your country, you suffer. Oh, you always suffer. Satan's about suffering and lying and cheating. That's all he is. And the people that serve him, that worship him, and all that, they suffer billions and billions of years in the lake of fire. They don't believe it. That's the delusion. That's part of their punishment. They won't believe it until they're dead. Then they'll wake up very quickly. Trump is going to sue the British BBC, British Broadcasting Channel, or consortium. Apparently, next week I will file. This is Trump talking. I will file a lawsuit for $1 to $5 billion against the BBC for changing the things I said regarding the events at the Capitol in Washington in January 2021. They even have to sue them. It's worse than what CBS did with Kamala Harris. They did a service to the world. They showed the world what fake news is. So he's not doing sanctions. Surprise! I thought he would do. So he's obviously using the influence of the presidency to try to sue for billions of dollars. they may very well settle out of court with him because they don't want to see how much influence he has. He's a seated president of the United States. That's big. Doesn't care about Hamas. They could kill Jews. He doesn't. The UN Security Council called for an end to the Houthi attacks in Yemen. That's the Security Council now. If they get enough votes, they could bring enforcement down. So this is interesting. The 13-0 vote, with China and Russia abstaining, the UN extends sanctions on Yemen and Iran-backed Houthis. Condemns cross-border and maritime attacks and calls on states to enforce the arms embargo amid rising Red Sea threats. Well, who's going to do the arms embargo? It's Iran that gives them the arms embargo. They're not going to stop. But it didn't say that they're sending UN soldiers down to Yemen. So it's more just talk, seriously bearing down on them at this point, but that could change. Iran so far has given no explanation as to why they seized that ship the other day and took it to Iran with the crew. So they just said it was an unauthorized cargo. What? The ship was going from UAE to Singapore, not Israel. They haven't given us any word as to what they're going to do with the crew, what they're going to do with the cargo, what they're going to do with the ship. So it looks like they're testing the water with Trump because they see he's a punk and won't do anything. And Europe won't do anything, and Israel won't really do anything about this at all. So they're thinking that they could put an embargo or a lockdown on the Persian Gulf and stop traffic from going through there because of the snapback sanctions that Europe and the whole United Nations is now obligated to put on them, which is grueling, really grueling for Iran. So they can just do their own thing. If they grab one ship a week, eventually the insurance companies are going to tell the shipping companies, we're not insuring you. Ships will stop going through there and they'll have an embargo that way. as long as everybody just sits still and does nothing about it. And that's the way it looks like it's going. The United States reopened the closed Puerto Rico naval base as the Caribbean military buildup continues. So the Caribbean military buildup isn't going to work with Mexico, which probably uses people to transport drugs in backpacks into Mexico, and they probably fly a lot of drones over it. And I don't think they're going to be using that many boats in these days. If they did, they probably stopped it. Now we got news from China. China on Friday warned Japan of a crushing military defeat if it uses force to intervene over Taiwan, and even cautioned Chinese citizens against visits to Japan. So China just told the people don't go to Japan. So that's a scare tactic that could be real. Japan all along has said that if China hits Taiwan, they're going to go after China. Okay. Because they're scared. North Korea will hit South Korea, China will hit Taiwan, and they don't want that. So now China's scaring them. China and Japan have bad blood. They don't get along. So we're getting closer and closer. You got to look at all this. Today I got a little bit more. No, I think that's it. That's a lot of news. Good inventions. None of it involves economic advantages taking place. None of it involves anything good. It's all bad. Jack is running the nations, and he's scared. He doesn't know what to do. Okay, we have a prayer request here for N.E. Normandy Edward. N.E. Normandy Edward. I'll say the prayer request for N.E. I'll put it out, and you guys can agree with me. This is for N.E. Normandy Edward. The prayer request is to find an SUV, maybe a pickup truck or some type of vehicle like that to buy where they can get a good vehicle at a good price. Deal. So this is for N.E., my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem, Yeshua, Mashiach. I pray for N.E. to find more work, more customers, more clients, good ones, and abundant amount. And I pray that N.E. and the family can find a good deal on an SUV, a good one, and they find it. And it's affordable to their budget, and it's good and a fair deal and all that, or a good deal. Let's call it a good deal. And I submit this prayer to you, my heavenly, good deal for them. And I submit this prayer to you, my heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you believers can agree with that. Okay, so we had a dose of news today, boy, didn't we? Woo! Oh boy, it was a big news day. So what's going on in Israel? Let me check the live stream. Yeah, Netanyahu said Putin called him, and we think it was about putting military force in Gaza to keep the peace. But see, that's goofy because we got to not just do that, we have to stop or take away the weapons from Hamas. I don't think Russia is going to do that. Russia would want to come in here and help us to get friendlier with Syria again, if possible, so he could go back into Syria and get his bases back. So he has bases in the Mediterranean, an air base and a navy base to fight against NATO. Trump will not be a friend of Syria if he grants that to Putin. Let me go see why I got a barkathon on here. I'll be back. What's going on? What? We got dinosaurs in the house. What's happening? What? What you barking about? What's going on in Barkland? Huh? We're getting a lot of barking. Why? So why are we having all the barking? These are the crackers we got for free the other day. They're good. They taste like American crackers. Um, so what needs to happen is the nations need to be and they form essentially a blockade. It's called a siege in the Bible. The surrounding nations surround us, close up borders, basically, probably stop air traffic, stop sea traffic, and try to bring us to our knees and ask them what gets rid of them. They get the two witnesses, burn them up. And he also destroyed two. That's found in Jeremiah 46, verse 28, and Jeremiah 30, verse 11. It's in two places. will happen any day. And he's going to destroy for like 2,000 years or something. And during the punishment period, and then the church becomes the head of the nations. The churches are starting to teach that everybody in Israel is going to be killed and destroyed. Well, where's the scripture? The church teaches don't follow the Bible. That's the problem. The weather's going to be like I do believe we coming out of the cold. Not tremendously. We're going to be sunny today. It's kind of sunny. High is 70. Tomorrow, high is 73. No rain. At night we go down to high 50s. It's cold. And then Tuesday we go to 76. Wednesday 78. Sunny. Thursday 81, 82, 82, 82. And then we go back into the 70s, the mid 70s and stuff, low 70s. So that's pretty good weather for a while. We need a lot more rain for the water supply in the Galilee. I don't know how that's going to work. So we're seeing the siege to take place, and there's a few players that still need to turn against us: Saudi Arabia, Jordan, well, Moab, which is central South Jordan, the north, Israel, Iraq, to the west of Euphrates, or Turkey to the west of Euphrates, which is 2/3 of Turkey, all of Lebanon, that's already in play. Gaza, that's in play. Egypt's in play. And then Sudan and South Sudan become Israel. To the east of the Nile River, you have Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya. Then you have Djibouti, Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. And Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Oman. That's all Israel. So things are, hey, let's see what gold's doing. It's from gold. It's Sunday. So I don't know how much trading is going on in gold, but let's take a look. We'll do gold and silver. Okay. $4,080 on gold and $50.47 on silver. We didn't have a lot of movement, and that doesn't surprise me. We could take a look at what's going on with I think how to do this. We'll take a look at the value of the dollar. It's a little difficult to do this, but I can have artificial intelligence do this. let it do the work instead of pulling it out tediously. All right. So the British pound is worth $1.31. Well, $1.32 against the dollar. So the dollar is rather weak against the British pound. Canadian, the dollar buys 1.40. So the US dollar is buying. Did I get this right? Yeah, it's buying $1.40. So the dollar's strong against the Canadian. The euro, the dollar, $1.16. So the dollar's weak against the euro. That's pretty high for the euro. The dollar buys 79 cents in the Swiss franc. That's the dollar's very low there. With Israel, the dollar buys 3.23 shekels, which is very low for the dollar. I'm going to check Canadian again. It doesn't click. Let's see what it comes up with. It came up with the same thing, 1.40. So Canadian dollar and the US dollar are both down. But the US dollar, that helps Trump with selling goods abroad. Okay. It hurts the people. People in America are really messed up economically right now. If he does this stimulus package and gives the people $2,000, he's probably going to wind up giving something like 70 or 80 or maybe 90 million people the bonus. He says he's not going to give it to people that make a lot of money. He's probably going to give it to the Social Security recipients, charity support, whatever, disability, and poor people, and food stamp people, and stuff like that. I guess that's what we'll do. I don't know. Some people are saying it's a pipe dream, it's not happening. Other people are saying it will happen. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know what's going to be with that. If he does it quick, he'll save Thanksgiving and he'll save Christmas. If he doesn't do it, I'll tell you right now, Thanksgiving is, but Christmas is going to be a dump. The stores are already selling pre-Black Friday sales. It started the end of last week. I mean, they're scared. They want to get rid of inventory. They don't know what's going to happen. People are not yet buying Christmas. I heard one retailer selling the designer perfumes for as much as 65. Some pretty serious name brand, Creed, which is an established name brand, and they're selling it 65% off. That's insane. That makes it almost affordable. At 80% off, I would say it's affordable. You know, it's crazy, what's going on. I don't know what to do on clothing. So if Trump comes out with the sanction money, it's going to save the day. A lot of households have two adults, and they'll get 2,000 times two. They get $4,000 out of nowhere that can make their Christmas. Very high chance Trump never pulls this off. Let me tell you, he is delusional. You must listen to this. He's delusional. He says so many things that never come. Delusional. We're going to disarm Hamas. We're going to disarm Hamas. We're going to disarm Hamas. Now he's not disarming Hamas. His word is worthless. Worthless. He's just a big mouthpiece. He's hot air. He doesn't deliver. Okay? Where's he going with the tariffs? What are you going to get out of that? Not a darn thing except a lousy economy, and it's the people that are having to pay more because of his stinking tariffs. What are you getting out of it? You get nothing out of this. Is he going to be able to fix the health insurance, which is what the shutdown was about? The Democrats are probably never going to let him fix it. The agreement on the shutdown was through January 30th. That was it. It may resume again. Trump's rather worthless, guys. You got to accept it. Everybody wants, to think America's going to have hope. It's not. It's the daughter of Babylon. It's doomed. They ain't going to make it. But they want to believe in Trump, and they're crazy. Trump's delusional, really, literally delusional. Biden was more obvious. He couldn't walk off the stage. Biden couldn't speak, but Trump speaks, but it never comes to pass. So why do you listen to this buffoon? I think the people that want to get rid of him know more than we did about him. They know what he's really like, and reason to get rid of him. The left wing are terrible. He's terrible. I don't know how he intends to deal with BRICS, who are going to destroy the American economy, what's left of it. He probably will not succeed there, but he's a failure across the board. What did he ever do right? Are the illegals leaving America? Did he get rid of a lot of them? No. What does he do? If there's no good Christmas this year, and without that stimulus, there's not going to be, I don't believe. The numbers are going to come in January 3rd, and there's going to be a lot of pressure from big people to get rid of Trump quickly. And that would mean impeachment. And who are they going to put in the place? They're going to put a piece of garbage in, because they always do. But they don't want this piece of garbage. They want one like, a dumbbell. No, they don't want another Obama, But they had it with Trump. They had it. And people in America dump millionaires into office. They're never going to get a fair shake. All the millionaires and billionaires are Satan bots. They're never going to get a good shake. Why don't they get somebody that is, got a mortgage and makes payments on their car, got $3,000 or $4,000 in the bank? Because they never run anybody like that. That's why God destroys all the nations. because they're all no good. They have a stacked deck. You can't ever get anything fair. God gets rid of them, that's all. He doesn't kill all the people, he destroys the countries. They're built up on Satan's practices. So there's so much to watch for right now. It's not even funny. Netanyahu knows he's out in left field as soon as he starts supporting a Palestinian state. So he's going to have to be pitted against Trump. Trump's going to tell Benji, I can't attack Gaza. I can't let you attack Gaza. If you attack Gaza, then Saudi Arabia and all the others aren't going to do the Abraham Accords. And Satan wants you to have those accords. Man, not gonna happen. So we watch, and a big indicator is when America goes down. That's the indicator. See, the church wants to promote, oh, when the beast comes, waiting for his return. Who the heck do you think that is the beast? In the pit, he comes out of the pit, and then he goes to perdition, the lake of fire. That's the return they're waiting on. The one that'll kill you. That's your church. Okay, so why don't they say Yeshua, or, because they're not talking about him. They're making fun of you for supporting them. They want to destroy you and give offerings to them while they're trying, it's just ridiculous. People are very dumb. All right. You can agree with me if you like. Pray for us. Okay, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers and their households. I pray we would have strength, stamina, and endurance today and tonight and always, and have your healing and recuperative power flowing through us always to get healed. And pray for continued peace and safety and happy, healthy, and whole for us and our animals and pets. I pray we also have adequate finances, more than we need. I pray you pour your Holy Spirit out on us, and that we walk in the gift of the Spirit, and that we know the scriptures better, and we stay strong and mighty in your name and your word, and we do exploits in spiritual warfare. The signs and wonders would follow the preaching of the true gospel. And I pray we could come together soon and meet in person. So when 2 or 3 are all gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of you. And we pray to experience that. We pray for a better peace of Jerusalem, and pray a way for me to get funds other than asking for offerings. I know some of you have been really nice about that, but it's such a small amount of you that give offerings. Very few people, at least 80-90%, something like that, are the people that listen to me on the radio that just don't believe in offerings. They just believe in taking and not taking the spiritual and not supporting with the earthly things. They believe in, it says don't muzzle the ox when he treads the grain. Well, they believe in muzzling the ox when he treads the grain. So probably a lot of that is because I'm in Israel and I'm a Jew and they don't trust Jews and stuff like that. Of course, all the apostles and the prophets and Yeshua were Jews, but they don't like Jews and trust Jews. But moving along, so, for years I've been trying to get the offerings for more people to increase, and it's really never goes anywhere. So I would ask you to pray that the Lord opens up other channels of me getting money. I don't know what that would be. I have no intention of stopping the broadcasts or going away from the broadcasts. And I'm not talking about doing that. I'm talking about continuing to come in from another source. It's not coming in from this. My wife needs a very expensive piece of medical equipment to get relief from the stroke she had. It's rather expensive. And I used to make money that would be like, no problem. I would just immediately write the check when I was in the world. But now I'm in ministry and I'm where, food insecurity about, you know, well, we think about everything we spend now. We passed on firewood and, we contemplate, like a lot of hamburgers, a lot of hot dogs, stuff like that. And we go for handouts of free fruits and vegetables. And this is how far economically we've degraded. And I've always just asked the people to pray for more offerings and for 10 years, and it doesn't work. The first 2 years, yes, I used my own savings and I never asked for offerings for 2 years. I just ran my savings out. That's, that's the state of the people. The church people give much better and liberally than the people that are not church. Then that's my audience, So I can, that me and my wife have channels open for financing. Otherwise, not offerings, but basically me. My wife doesn't do much. She takes care of the house. So that I would get more sources of finance or money other than the offerings. Please pray for that. And I don't know what God will do, but He could do it. We get by, we got food, we got the lights on, but I got to sweat the rent all the time, and I get nervous about the bills. They got problems, we don't want to buy things very often. We buy little things, but I mean, it's something expensive we won't really buy. Using the guest house would be an avenue that used to go before COVID, but it, we're about to go to war again with Lebanon. We're about to go to war with Gaza, and the Houthis and probably reckon stay out of jail. So, I don't think we're going to ever have a return of tourism before redemption, before I don't see it. Someone suggested I could rent the house out long term to somebody, the guest house. Well, you could, of course, but that creates a number of other problems. We don't have separate meters for water and electricity, so I would have to cover that. And when somebody lives here in the warm weather or the cold weather, and they run the heaters and they run the air conditioners. Now the air conditioners in this country are also heaters. The bill goes up like an elevator, So how much could you get for the place anyway? I don't know. And then we got to worry about maintenance. We need about $1,000 to fix the place up because it's falling and needs paint and repair. Because it's been years. It just, friends come, family comes, that sort of thing we got. But that's not pay, you know. So we don't know what to do about that. So we're wondering, tourism right now is very, very low. Okay. So renting it out to somebody, here's the problem. To get to a lot of bars are where we keep the birds and, you got to walk to the guest house. And to get to the washer and dryer room, you got to go to the guest house. So when people come and stay as a guest, you're charging a lot of money. and because they were all expensive in Israel, everything's expensive. And the most people usually stay is 4 days. So you don't have to do a wash for 4 days. That's easy. You don't have to go into the car. You got to walk around the hallway and stuff, and that's inconvenient for a few days, especially when it's raining or it's very hot. It's inconvenient, but they're gone then, and you're okay not doing it all the time. But if the way the house is laid out, if you rent it to somebody all the time, it's a problem. Walking through there is difficult, you know. Then you could rent it to somebody and they run into financial problems, and then what do you do? You're not going to throw them out in the street. So you got to now they're staying there for free, and you're giving them electric and water, and see, you got a dilemma when you're dealing with the people as a vacation, a guest house. They pay you up front. You don't have to deal with, you don't have a problem with that, but you got a problem. So we talked about it, and the other thing is you got to go find somebody that you put in there, and yeah, what are they going to do? I mean, what if they make noise at night and keep you up? And when you're dealing with the tour, the people, the first people, generally what happens is they get up in the morning like 7, 8 o'clock. They don't get up early. And then they'll eat. A lot of times they'll cook and make a breakfast and coffee, and then they'll take showers. So you got to keep the electric hot water heater going in the cool weather practically the whole day. That costs money, more than you would think. And then they take off and they come back at the winter could be 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, depending on where they go, what they're doing. They come back. And then what do? A lot of times they bring food back with them, or they'll cook something for dinner. And then what do they do? Well, they start with live stream, chatting on the internet. We got high-speed internet in there, not fiber optic, but very thin. They watch the flat screen and they'll watch Netflix or something. Usually not. They're sending email. Uh, they're talking on the phone, on the internet, WhatsApp and stuff, and they're taking a shower, and you know, then they go to bed, you know, and they get up in the morning and do it again. So you don't really have them around the house during the day. So when they're out, we can walk through the house to get to the car, get to the guest house, because they're attached. The house is attached. So we could walk right through there to get to the car, the birds, the washing machine. They're not there. It's really rare to see these people that come in for, 2, 3, 4, 5 days to be home during the day. They rarely, some of them stay here. That could be. But we don't care on Shabbat because we're not doing wash, and we're not going to the car. Got to feed the birds, but you know. So that's the difference. So if we rent it out to somebody, we can't. We got to take a real long walk to get to things all the time, and we're old, and then you got to carry the groceries a long way, and it's hard on us. We're old, so it doesn't work well. So that's why we don't rent it out. And you got to rent it out to somebody that's a believer that has the means of support. We've given it to people that are believers or say they're believers to live there for free for long periods of time. we've done that, and can't do that, Do it if we get if somebody has a need, we'll put them up there. What we'd really like to do is find somebody that wants to come here and help take care of the house for us. That would work. Let them live there and they could we don't have to pay the lady to do the cleaning. They could do the cleaning a couple of times a week. And they could live there. They have to buy their own food. And we would be stuck with the utilities, so they got to be a little bit conservative on that. And that's something we think about doing. But we don't know who wants to do that. We don't have any candidate for that. If we had a candidate for that, we would probably consider it. But you got to be careful. You can't just take anybody. You got to say you need that for. Then you're tossing them day and night, and binding. Who needs the aggravation? I don't. So you got to be careful who you get. That's that's the deal. We almost got a house where there was 7 guest houses. A guy we knew had his mother was in there, and when COVID was just starting, she wanted to sell the place, and they were smart to sell it, but they were going to rent it to us. But I'm glad it never happened because it just would be a boat anchor through the waters. Somebody did buy it from the woman. It was his mother. Somebody bought it, but I don't know what they did with it. I have no idea. No idea. So that's the deal. Someone asked me about the renting it out, and yeah, you could, but it's also would interfere with our life too much. Having people come a few days a week doesn't, because when they're here, they're not here during the day, so you can just walk through the house. We're an innkeeper, like a hotel. We're not a landlord. When you're a monthly landlord, they don't want you walking through the house. But people that are tourists that are here for 2 days or 3 days, they understand that you'll go in the room. And most of them are churched or Bible believing and true believers. We had some of those, and we had church people, and they were very nice, and they talked, and I tried explaining the true gospel to them occasionally. They didn't know what I was talking about. They just tried to be polite, and that type of thing, So sometimes we would become social with them. That happened. Yeah. All right. So those of you that with the orphans, thank you very much. It does keep us going, but it's getting, like it's so tight. I'm wondering what I'm doing, and maybe it's because I never asked the Lord to open up avenues of money other than the offerings. Okay. The Lord doesn't work, against their free will. If they're dedicated, they don't want to go do offerings. The Lord's not going to, get them to do offerings. That's not going to happen. They're dedicated against it. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. And let me see if I could No, I can't do anything. Oh, it does work here. I could check the messages here. So I'll keep up on the news. There's so much happening right now. And remember, when the daughter of Babylon gets it, when the siege starts, it could very likely come unexpectedly. Be surprised when it happens. Very possibly that way. So when you think it's not going to happen, it's going to continue for months and years. It could happen. Remember that. Okay. So I'm out, guys. I hope you got something out of this. Thanks.